Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to a new video. This is day 3 of trying to be consistent in 2026, and today's huge news. Apparently, America has gone into Venezuela, Black Ops style, movie style, Hollywood style. They just went in and blew up a bunch of stuff, probably a bunch of people too, which is tragic. And it's awful. It's honestly awful. I hope the civilian casualties were like as few as possible. But from the images, I mean, it looked terrifying. The explosions and everything. Apparently, they blew up a bunch of key tactical sites, and they just went into Maduro's house and they grabbed him, put him in a bag. The wife too. Apparently she was helping him out laundering money, and they just took him away like the Grinch stealing Christmas. They just came in the night and took him away, and that's shocking, absolutely shocking. It's incredible. I think nothing like that had happened here like in the past 40 years or maybe more. I'm not sure. I'm not fully informed about that. What I can do and what I wanted to do is just give my take on it, because I am Colombian. I live right next to Venezuela, in the country right to the left of Venezuela. We are sister nations, honestly. Through time, in the past, when my mom was young, Venezuela was super rich and Colombia was very, very, very poor, was doing very badly. So a lot of Colombians went to Venezuela, and they were the immigrants. They were the people looking for a better future there. Of course, taking jobs from Venezuelans because they charged very little money. Being annoying to Venezuelans because we have slightly different cultures and like slightly different things, and because many Colombians went there to do crime and be slimy, stuff that happens everywhere where there's a mismatch of economic power between two countries, and the people from one country migrate to the other one. This is universal. This happens everywhere. So anyway, yeah, this had been happening for many years between Colombia and Venezuela. At one time, we were going there for opportunities. In the past years, they were coming here for opportunities and going basically everywhere and anywhere. Going to Argentina, to Brazil, to Chile, to Peru. I don't think Ecuador too much, probably. They were basically going anywhere, so I bet there was a lot of Venezuelans in Ecuador. I bet that was coming. I wouldn't be surprised if there was a ton of Venezuelan immigration to pretty much everywhere in Latin America, except for maybe Haiti and Guyana and those types of places. But anyway, my take from here, from being a neighbor to the country and waking up to those news that happened this morning. I'm recording this in the afternoon, near 5 p.m. ish. This is Pacific Standard Time without any daylight savings shenanigans or anything, right? So anyway, I think this is very, very good for the Venezuelan people for one reason only. We live in an age where we can't trust anything we see anywhere. We live in the age where information is completely devalued. Video evidence is pretty much worthless. Audio evidence, pictures, testimonies are worthless. People accuse each other of being crisis actors, of being mouthpieces, controlled opposition. All of that language, all of that conspiratory language has completely destroyed the way people take in information about what's going on in the world. So there's one reason why I think this is a good thing, and it's the fact that I live in Colombia, and I have spoken with many Venezuelans over the years because they have been coming here in mass over the years. There's millions of Venezuelans in Colombia who came here because things are very tough there, right? So I have interacted with a lot of Venezuelans. I have spoken to a lot of Venezuelans, and here's the thing: I have never heard any Venezuelan person say anything good about Maduro. Never, absolutely never. And listen to this, get this: if you're a chud, if you're a right winger, a staunch right winger from the U.S., I have heard Venezuelan people say good things about Chavez. I have heard them say that Chavez used to know how to play his cards. He used to know how to get good things for Venezuelans, keep them well fed, keep them happy, keep them satisfied. I have heard this in the past, and I've never heard that for Maduro. So no Venezuelan that I have ever spoken with, which has probably been, let's get an estimate, probably 50, maybe 50 Venezuelans. Of course, I have interacted directly with Venezuelans hundreds and hundreds of times, because they are everywhere, working all kinds of jobs, all kinds of entry-level, blue-collar, like the simplest jobs possible, because those are the jobs that they have the greatest access to, as happens with immigrants everywhere, of course. This is the most common thing. I have interacted with them hundreds and hundreds of times. But, having an actual conversation, like for a few minutes, asking them things, asking them how they feel about the country, how they feel about Colombia, how they feel about their country, when did they get here, stuff like that. A nice, friendly, short conversation of at least 10 minutes, I would say. I've had probably 50 of those. In the past, let's call it 15 years. In the past 15 to 20 years. I've had, probably in the past 20 years. Because I probably started speaking more to people when I was 15. So in the past 20 years, after having probably 50 or more conversations with Venezuelans, asking them about their country, and Maduro has been in power, I think, for 12 years. So 12 of those years, or however many years. But anyway, I have never heard any Venezuelan say anything good about Maduro. All of them say that he sucks, that he's the worst, that he has ruined everything. Whatever in the political spectrum you are, whatever you fall, let's say you are like super anti-American, right? Or super pro-American. Let's say you love America, you love Trump, you love the army, you love interventionism abroad, whatever. I don't know. Nowadays, those things don't go together. A lot of very right-wing people are very against intervening, right? But anyway, whatever you fall in the spectrum, whether you hate America, hate Trump, or love America, love Trump, or love America, hate Trump, or vice versa, right? Whatever you fall, the evidence says, and right now, as I speak, I bet there's Venezuelans celebrating everywhere, all around the world. They're probably gathering in their embassies, in their consulates, at social places. They're probably gathering and partying, basically just playing music in the streets and dancing. That's the Latin American way of doing things, not just cheering and hugging at home and sending messages to people. Not just that. No, you gotta just go out and party. That's very Latino, So I bet that's happening all around the world. I bet people are celebrating the fall of Maduro all around the world. I honestly, I am convinced, based on my personal experience, based on the fact that I've never heard anything good about him, I'm convinced that he is in fact extremely toxic and terrible, incompetent, evil, greedy, all the bad things that the Venezuelans say about him. I bet all of those things are true, and I bet this is technically a good thing, actually a good thing for Venezuela. Now, I would be very, very cautious. Of course, many of them would just get carried away and just just enjoy the moment, be happy, because he's truly an asshole, and was very likely. I think he was accused, of course, of disappearing people, executing people, or putting people in prisons if they disagreed with him. I mean, there's no reason to believe he didn't do that, because he is a dictator, or was a dictator. He rigged elections, pretty much ignored the popular vote many times, and just kept himself in power just because he wanted to stay in power. So he has likely done incredibly evil things to his people. He has very likely hurt and killed innocent people. So just for that, just for the justice, it's amazing that they got him. But I would be very, very, very cautious, extremely cautious about celebrating and assuming like a victory, and assuming like, okay, now everything is going to be peachy for Venezuela. I wouldn't be so quick to say that. just because you have removed him. I mean, it wasn't him himself walking the streets with a gun and threatening people and keeping everybody oppressed in the country. It wasn't him physically doing all of that, right? It's a huge apparatus. It's a huge organization of people. Many people were getting very rich from everything that he was doing in his country. And so this is a huge monster, right? They have chopped off one of the monster's claws, let's say, or its head. But we don't know if this is one of those monsters that can grow a new head very quickly, and or just has many heads, doesn't need to grow a new one. Just another of his heads takes over, and that's it. We don't know if this is one of those cases, so we should be very cautious. The Venezuelan people should be very cautious. There could be violence ahead. Just changing a regime in any place in the world. People who are loyal to the guy who just got busted, right? People who are loyal to him. Whenever one of those guys is busted, the loyalists now become rebel groups, and they rebel against whatever comes next. So we don't know if that's gonna happen. If that's gonna happen, that's gonna be terrible. This is a region of the world, and I'm speaking from my country, Colombia. Colombia has had internal civil war, internal guerrilla warfare for the past 70 years at this point. When I was in school, when I was 16, we used to say for the past 50 years. Now it's been 30 years since that. So I guess we're closing in on 80 years of this being the case. We have had guerrilla warfare, rebel groups trying to take down the government for the past 80 years probably. Many of them have disarmed and integrated with society and with the electoral process. Actually, our current president used to belong to one of those rebel groups called M19. He was part of one of those groups. I think he was in a very high position. I don't think he was the leader. I don't remember. I'm not fully informed with that. But I think he occupied a very, very high position in the M19. So, I mean, that group disarmed, integrated politically. I have a friend, a very close friend of mine whom I love. He's the son of a guy who used to belong to that terrorist group, and during the same decades, my dad was a police officer and he chased members of that group. So this is a friendship that means the world to me, because we symbolize the way things can get better, even if it's like super slow, even if it's extremely slow. Things can get better. But that's the thing. Like the things, I don't think things can get better like instantly, like in the next few months or in the next year. I don't think things can get better in Venezuela in a year or 5, probably 10. It probably needs 10 years to get back on track, to have people feeling optimistic, feeling that they have the power of changing their lives. I think that's the biggest. I don't think you should measure how a country is doing based on its GDP compared to the rest of the GDPs of the world, because then most of the world is basically completely in the mud if you do that, and that's not the case. That's not true. I think if people in a country have jobs that they go and do, and they get some money, and they can live with their job, and they can also spend money on things they like, even if it's honestly, even if it's just getting drunk from time to time, like getting drunk every week or whatever, just partying, as many third world countries do. It is the case with many third world countries that working class people just work in order to party over the weekend, and then they just keep working in order to party next weekend. But still, they can live. They have a place to live. They have a family. They buy stuff for their family in Christmas. It may be just very affordable Chinese stuff bought in a Chinese place, as I did in my Christmas. I went to get my family's Christmas gifts in a Chinese store that sells very cheap Chinese wares, because I couldn't afford anything else. But hey, we had very good food, very good meat. We had a great time. We were together. We were happy. We ate. We exchanged gifts. Sure, if you take the money that we have and you compare it to the money the average British or Canadian or American family spends on a Christmas, then it looks like we're living in complete misery. Of course, but measuring stuff that way is completely ridiculous. It doesn't make any sense. What you have to measure is how people feel, if they feel that they have control over their lives. That is, I think, the biggest question, the biggest thing you have to ask from people is ask them if they feel that they can control their lives in terms of, do they have hope? Do you think you can get yourself out of this, or do you think there's no way out? And that's your first. I mean, you gotta start there. So if we can hope for the Venezuelan people to start feeling like they can turn it around, if they can get that feeling, then this is a huge victory. Then this is amazing. But if 6 months from now, or a year from now, the Venezuelan people are still feeling like there's no way out, and what they need to do is just go to the US or continue to go to the rest of the Latin American countries, because there's no hope in Venezuela. If that is the case, then honestly nothing changed, nothing happened. What's needed is for people to have hope. And to feel that they can fix things, that they have control over their future, and they can turn it around. So yeah, I just wonder if that's gonna be the case. I don't know what's real and what isn't real, honestly, in the news and in what people post and everything. As I said at the beginning, we live in an age where everything can be fake, everything can be a double, triple, quadruple false flag, a conspiracy, controlled opposition, all kinds of things. It's a nightmare. It's honestly a nightmare to even think about current events and try to figure out what's really going on. It's nightmarish. So I saw a headline which could be completely false because of what I'm telling you, right? Could be a complete lie, but I saw a headline that Trump said the US is gonna be governing Venezuela until they can guarantee a peaceful transition into democracy, right? Because they didn't have democracy. Even if Maduro said they didn't have it. Maduro would just completely shamelessly steal the elections every single time, and it was transparent as hell. I mean, in the news, because they are right next to us, and there's millions of Venezuelans here in Colombia. Of course, their elections are like as important to us as they are to them. We need to know what happens, because that's gonna affect a lot of things over here. So, in the last election cycle, there, During the day, we were getting news about the count and how the opposition candidate was winning in most of the regions, and it showed like she was winning. I think it was the woman this time. I think the other dude was from the last election, like from a few years ago. But anyway, so the opposition candidate, it was shown that they were winning, and then at night, all of the ballot places were closed, and armed members of some kind of civilian militia that answered directly to Maduro, they closed the ballot places all over the country, and they locked the people who were counting, and they said they needed to verify the counting and everything, and they spent like 8 hours with everyone on lockdown. And then after the lockdown, they just said, okay, we counted everything, and guess what, Maduro won. Hey, let's celebrate, Maduro won. So it was, I mean, it's just ridiculous. I'm laughing about it, but of course it's no laughing matter. It's awful. It must have felt, I can't imagine how frustrating it must be for the Venezuelan people, because, and I'm going to tell you this to whoever's listening, things are not perfect in my country. God knows that. Probably everybody knows that. You've probably heard Trump in the news complaining about Colombia because it's a narco state as well, and it's a huge problem. Complaining about Petro, our president, who used to belong to a rebel group, and he's like a radical, left-leaning, socialist-leaning politician, right? And yeah, he's quite a handful. There's a lot of problems here. The left-wing people used to have a lot of faith in Petro here. A lot of faith in him, and they have lost faith in him completely ever since he won the presidency. I am not surprised about that. I decided to vote for Petro, actually, in the last elections. I voted for him, so I helped elect him. My wife voted for him as well. We decided to give him a chance because, I mean, all of our lefty friends were gonna vote for him. So we felt like, well, you know what? Let's give him a chance. I mean, what if he really is everything they think he can be, right? So yeah, he won, and it turns out things haven't been as peachy as the left expected them to be. Everything has been kind of more on the same, more of the same, in the front of insecurity. Financial insecurity, in the front of lack of safety, public order. A lot of things seemingly have gotten worse, although I don't know if that's a very partisan take on that. I don't know. The previous president, to him, was also letting any and all Venezuelans into the country. He was just letting them all in. He was not anti-immigration. Of course, Petro isn't either. He's not anti-immigration. I have heard that he gives too much money to the protected groups, you know, to Venezuelans and all of that. So, but I have heard that from people who are like extremely right wing. I'm not well informed enough. I honestly don't have the energy to pay enough attention to my own country's politics in order to be well informed about this. I don't have the energy. I don't like to think about it. It's draining. It's completely draining. Funny enough, and I know that many of you are gonna sympathize with this. It's actually more interesting and less depressing and less taxing on your psyche to pay attention to other countries, to whatever's going on, like all around the world, abroad. And of course, even though it's super close, it's actually more refreshing to pay attention to whatever is happening in Venezuela instead of our own country, because sometimes some aspects of what's going on here can be too depressing. So anyway, I don't think. I mean, of course, my country has a ton of problems. Of course, my country has a ton of problems, but. What I was saying about feeling hope and feeling like you have control over your life, I think people here have hope. People in my country have hope. Even if everything is super shitty, they still have dreams that involve staying here and finishing studies that they're doing, like getting a certification of some sort in order to get a better job and move to the city or away from the city or do this or do that, and starting families. I feel like there's a lot of hope here, even with all the problems that we face. So it's not asking for much. It's just, if you see in the news that nothing good has happened in Venezuela, if a year from now you see in the news that nothing good has happened in Venezuela since removing Maduro because people are still poor, you really have to ask yourself, what do they mean by poor? Because honestly, it's not about the amount of dollars that you have. It's about the amount of happiness that you get in exchange for the amount of work that you put in day by day. So even if you get like very little dollars from the job that you do, if you're just a humble fisherman in a coastal town in a minuscule village in South America, and you make like the equivalent of pennies a day, but if that's enough to bring food back to your family and go have a beer with the boys, even if you shouldn't, even if you, you should save that money and not have those beers and try to make your life better, right? That's what everybody. That's the white savior thing. That if these people only would save money and get educated and start businesses and then start hiring their friends and then create a company with everyone in their neighborhood and then pave everything and improve the roads and build better houses and make everything look like America. Sure, that's one way of measuring success. But my definition of happiness and success for a country is actually it demands way less. All I ask is, can the people just get home after a hard day of work and just unwind, and can they feel hope? Not even can they smile and feel happiness with their family, because pretty much everyone can do that no matter what. Like, the human spirit and human resilience is so amazing. People can do that even under the toughest regimes. They can just go home and enjoy time with their family and kind of unplug and just forcefully be happy, because otherwise they would go insane, and that's like a defense mechanism that everybody has. But just apart from coping with whatever situation you have, can you look into next year and feel, you know what, if I save a little bit of money, I'm going to be able to do this, I'm going to be able to do that, I'm going to sell my current motorcycle that's kind of beat up, and I'm going to go for it. I'm going to take the risk and take a new motorcycle out on credit, and I know I'm going to be able to pay for it. Whatever. I'm going to take the risk. I'm going to do it. I'm going to go crazy. If a person can do that, even if they live in a little hut, like in a tiny, just almost crumbling house, but they have a house, they have their food, their wife, their kids, they have a job, they can carry on, and they can have tiny dreams. Dreams don't have to be huge. Dreams can be getting a new phone, just carrying on. If the Venezuelan people can get that, I think that would be amazing, because that means everything's on the right tracks. And yeah, I hope that's the case. I hope it doesn't become a war zone, as it has happened here. That's the segue that took me to talking about Colombia and the Colombian situation. Of course, way to make it about my own country when it's about the other country. Anyway, I hope it doesn't turn into a war zone. We have had a war zone state here where there's parts of the country where you can't go because the rebel groups are there. And it used to be that they controlled large parts of the country, like super large. And there used to be a ton of places in the country where you really just couldn't go, no matter what. and those areas controlled by the rebels used to be growing by the year. Now they have been shrinking, and each faction has its own interests. Even though Petro belonged to a rebel group, it was a different rebel group than the ones he's fighting against now. Now there's still a group called the ELN, and they are fighting against Petro. Petro is having to fight them, and they're a huge problem for him because they are blowing stuff up, taking over towns, doing massacres on people. You know, they're a gigantic pain in his ass. Even though he was a rebel himself, the same could happen to Venezuela, and it would be absolutely terrible. Of course, many very well informed Venezuelan citizens could tell me, hey man, that has been happening. There's groups there. There's this group that's super loyalist to Maduro. There's this other group that says they are, but they are kind of they have friction with the other groups, and sometimes there's violence, and there's organized crime, and the organized crime is another group, and they have friction with the other groups. So sometimes they have crossfire, just like the rebel groups in Colombia, and there's casualties. I mean, all of that is hypothetical, but I bet if any Venezuelan sees this and can comment, I bet I'm not far off from the truth. So it could happen to Venezuela that they just become highly unstable, highly unsafe, just like my country Colombia has been at many stages in history. Currently, we're going through a phase of instability, but there's this thing where you just learn the parts of the country that you can't go, and the conflict stays there. The conflict doesn't come to the city. The city suffers from the crime. So there's organized crime in the city, people extorting small businesses, the petty crime, muggings, violence at that scale, stabbings from time to time, beatings, of course violence against women happens constantly. It's terrible. So very unsafe areas in the city. But it's not, when I say that we have had civil conflict and guerrilla warfare, it's very rare that makes it to the city. In certain points in history, it has happened. That's what I would fear the most for Venezuela. What I would fear for them is they just fracture completely, and you have a large section of the population who are pro-American intervention and pro-American occupation. In the case of an occupation, America takes over. They are in Caracas. They take over all the main cities. They put military bases all over Venezuela. But still, you have a ton of basically jungle, just wild areas completely devoid of roads or towns or whatever, where the rebel groups can hide, where the people who don't want America to rule Venezuela, they can go into the mountains, into the jungle, just hide and stay there and do guerrilla warfare against the occupation or the people who are pro-occupation for decades, and it becomes just a slow burn. They start simmering in violence for decades, as has happened to us. That's what's happened to Colombia. Some parts of Colombia have been like under warfare for decades, and they have the same experience as parts of the Middle East, where there has been like non-stop conflict. Parts of Colombia are like that. I have never been to anywhere like that in my country, of course. Because no one in my family would have ever brought me to a place so dangerous for any reason. They would never take me there, so I've never been to those parts of the country. And then after I grew up, on my own volition, I would never go. Are you kidding me? Never. I would absolutely never go to the dangerous places of the country. So I live here in my country, and I have no idea how those places look, how they truly feel, how the people there feel. I have no idea. It's like a different country, which is tragic. It's terrible that that's the case. That level of fragmentation, right? That's what I fear the most for Venezuela. I hope that doesn't happen to them. There's an outcome that can be pragmatically good for the people of Venezuela, but is very depressing and it's fundamentally wrong, which is the United States just takes over. They just take over. They just grab the place. They say, okay, we're gonna take over temporarily until we can know that this place is fully stable, developed, civilized, and we have completely eradicated corruption, and we can safely just let them govern themselves. So until then, we're gonna be in charge. Sure, cool. That could take 100 years, all right, or it could never happen, because then you have to define, well, what do you mean by stable, right? My country has never been stable. So why don't you take over mine? It hasn't been stable since it was created. Depending on how you define stable, depending on how you define safe and livable, my country has never been safe or livable, depending on how you define it, right? So that's another outcome that it could be good for the people of Venezuela if the US just take over, just by force. By force, make it safe. By force, make it livable. Bring jobs. Let people work for dollars. Something like what they do with Puerto Rico or Costa Rica. I don't know which ones, but I know the US has like territories that they own, scattered around Latin America, right? So whatever it is that you guys are doing, whatever you're doing in those places, if you do it in Venezuela too, for the Venezuelans, and thus you make it like super smooth and with less friction for them to move to the US like fully legally as citizens, maybe that's a great outcome for the Venezuelan people. Maybe that's a great outcome for them in a pragmatic sense, because they will have a stable economy, even if they suffer, even if they get very much taken advantage of by the US and their riches are extracted and everything, which happens with any place that's occupied by a bigger, stronger, more powerful nation. Of course they're going to be taken advantage of. Of course, that's going to happen every single time. That's inevitable. So even if that happens, maybe it's good that the US just takes over and they make sure that no rebel groups, no narco groups take over cities or towns and torture, kill, rape, do all those terrible things to people, because they are this is a big thing. Make no mistake, please, people in the US who are very left leaning, please understand. If a terrorist group, if an armed group says fuck the US and fuck Trump and we hate the US and we wanna kick them out of this country, we never wanna see them here, we hate everything they represent, if they're saying that stuff and you feel that way, so therefore you feel like maybe they are the good guys because they're saying the same stuff that you feel, if that's the case, if you're feeling that way, you're wrong. Those people are not good just because they hate America just like you. I am convinced that you can be a good person in America with good intentions and even very, very smart and well educated, but just on account of how you have lived, the people you have interacted with, and where you have lived, you just develop anti-American sentiments. And maybe you just sometimes let that bias extend way too much outside of the US, and you suddenly fall into the trap of, okay, anything that's anti-American I can get behind because I hate America, right? If you fall into that trap, that's the worst you can do. That's absolutely terrible. The narco groups that control Venezuela and control Colombia and control Mexico, these are not good people. Just because they are ethnically different to you and therefore you find their culture interesting and exotic and just cooler, I guess, just because it's not yours, that doesn't mean they're good. They are terrible. These are people who are extremely violent. They do terrible things to the kind of people that you say you care about. You say you care about the Latin American vulnerable people who are just trying to make a living, and they're just trying to make it through the year and improve their lives, and they are honest and hardworking. Look, awesome. You say you are, if you're a hardcore American lefty, you say you are behind those people, you are on their side, you want to help them. Awesome. Cool. I respect that so much. Yes, please be on their side. Yes, please help them. But understand that the armed people who make manifestos and videos and they say they are against America, and they control and work with and work for huge narco organizations, those people are bad. Okay, those people are bad. They are very evil, very violent, very dangerous. They kill, torture, oppress, rape, take advantage of. They savage the good working, good Latino people that you say you are behind. So, in this new case, in this big case of Venezuela and the new stuff that's gonna happen. And what's going to happen? Is Trump going to take over? Is he not? Is there going to be a candidate that is pro-America, pro-Trump? In this whole equation, I think you should be very skeptical of what America says it's going to do for the good of the Venezuelan people. Sure. But also be very skeptical of the people who says that America's the worst in the world just because they intervened. And just because they plucked out a Latin American president. Some people might start saying that Maduro was legitimately elected. Complete, absolute lie. Absolute bull. Anyone who says that Maduro was the legitimate democratically elected president of Venezuela, and they use that argument, like, you interfere with the democracy, I can hear it already. It's complete nonsense. Complete nonsense. Don't believe people who say that, because they are either dishonest or disinformed. And regardless of which one it is, the effect is the same. It hurts the people that you supposedly care about. So if there's a lot of empathetic people in America that really care about what happens to the people of Venezuela, just keep that as your highest priority. Like, what's gonna happen to the people, not ideologically. Under which ideology are we gonna help the people? And if we're gonna help them in a Trumpy way, then I don't want that to happen at all, because fuck Trump. That's the worst that you can do. The point is to help the people of Venezuela. Doesn't matter in what flavor that comes. I think honestly, I don't think Venezuelans as a mass love Trump. I mean, I don't think they love everything Trump says or thinks about Latinos or about Venezuelans. I don't think they would like him, honestly. But on this particular issue, hey, Trump is very useful to them, because he's removing a huge, terrible tumor that's Maduro, right? So yeah, I don't know. Things are gonna get complicated. Things are gonna get very, very, very complicated. Many things could happen. That outcome, well, as I was saying, I should make it clear. So the outcome where the U.S. takes over Venezuela pretty much permanently, it may be pragmatically good for Venezuela, but it is morally wrong, I think. I think the Venezuelan people should govern themselves. They should be able to be their own presidents, they should be their own army. They should keep their own people safe in their own way, in the way they see fit. I think they should be autonomous. I think every nation has the right to that. I think it's a moral defeat, a complete moral defeat, if they just become a vassal state or a completely occupied state, occupied by the U.S. In perpetuity. and they are just a U.S. territory from now on, and they have to cling to their culture the way other U.S. territories do, but always knowing, okay, the U.S. owns us, so we belong to the U.S. Now the edgelords are going to say, oh, well, all of you belong to the U.S. Well, of course, you know what? Of course, they can do whatever the fuck they want. Trump can come tonight and take Petro away in a burlap sack, Grinch style. He can do that. He showed the world, he has shown the world that he can just dress up like the Grinch and come into the royal palace of any president in the entire American continent and pluck them away, put them in a burlap sack, and bring them into a military boat and take them to Alligator Alcatraz, right? He has shown that he can do that, and no one, absolutely no one else in the world, no country is going to do anything about it. Today we know that's the case. Today we know no one will help you if Trump wants to put you in a burlap sack and take you away like the Grinch. No one will help you. They will condemn it, which I find just hilarious, right? To me, that's just condemning stuff is the most useless thing you can do. I mean, it's just, you're just saying words. You're casting spells, right? You're not doing anything. You might as well throw him a Pokemon card or a Yu-Gi-Oh card, and it's some kind of trap card in order to trap him. It's the same effect. It has the same consequence than condemning his acts. So sure, everybody is now tweeting. Every lefty government in South America, which there are many, most of them are very lefty. South America politically has historically been a very, very left-leaning continent. Of course, there has been fascist states in South America. There has been cases, but for the most part, this is a very, very lefty continent nowadays. So there's a lot of presidents very seriously sending messages of, well, oh, this is unacceptable. This is terrible. I condemn this. I despise this. I spit on this. That's completely useless. Absolutely useless. So all of them know, while typing those messages, they know that sure, they can type that. They can talk shit. Which is cool. Look, hey, this part is actually, this you should respect about the Trump world order, right? Or the America world order. You should respect the fact that you are allowed to talk shit. You can talk all the shit you want, but you have to play ball. So as long as you play ball, you can talk shit. You can say this is the worst, this is terrorism, this is a violent, disgusting, cowardly act, this is that. You can cast all the curses that you want, but you have to play ball. So the message has been sent. I don't think anyone in Latin America has missed this message. I think the message is crystal clear, absolutely crystal clear. Trump will do whatever the fuck he wants, and you better realize right away. You better start acting accordingly. You don't have to like it. You can talk shit about it. Go ahead, talk shit. It has been proven. It has been actually proven. And this is, you know what? Trump does many, many things very, very wrong and does a lot of bad things. And there's a lot of things to dislike about Donald Trump. But the fact that he lets people talk shit, I think that's very good. I think that's good. I think that's one good thing. He lets people just talk shit. Go ahead, talk. Go ahead and say that. Go ahead and say this. I saw that he had this guy from New York, the new mayor of New York, Zoran Mamdani, I think is his name. He had Mamdani at the White House in a press conference and stuff, and the journalists were asking Trump, what he thought about Mandami saying that he was basically Hitler and all of those terrible things. And Trump was like, whatever. I mean, I don't care. Basically suggesting, like, look, as long as he plays ball, I don't care what he says. He can talk shit all he wants. This coming from a person that basically only talks shit 24/7. So it makes, if you think about it, it makes perfect sense. That is the one thing that is sacred to him, basically. He's like, look, you can talk shit if you want. I do it about everyone all the time, every day. So yeah, that's the good thing. So right now, Latin American governments, they're gonna start talking a lot of shit. And there's one Latin American leader, and it's not the one from Cuba. There is one Latin American president that is not gonna sleep well tonight, and it's this Scheinbaum lady from Mexico. And this is my personal opinion. I think she's not gonna be sleeping well tonight. She's gonna be a little worried because a large population of her own people, the people of Mexico, a very large portion of the population, I would dare say the majority, are accusing her of pretty much all the same stuff that Maduro was accused of, and the reasons why Maduro was taken away. So if I was her, I would have a lot of trouble sleeping tonight, because Maduro was just taken away by the Grinch in a burlap sack, and he was accused of all the same things she's being accused of. And actually, the way her accusers make her look, in some ways, not in every single way, because Mexico is doing, light years better than Venezuela, right? But in many ways, a lot of her opposition makes her look worse. So I would be sweating bullets. If I was her, I would be shitting bricks, sweating bullets, thinking about the fact that tonight or tomorrow or any night, the Grinch could come for her as well. Anyway, I appreciate you and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.
3 to the 1, from the 1 to the 3. I met a bad bitch last night in the D. Let me tell you how I made her leave with me. Conversation and Hennessy. I've been to the motherfucking mountaintop. Heard motherfuckers talk, seen them drop. If I ain't got a weapon, I'ma pick up a rock. And when I bust your ass, I'm gonna continue to rock. Get your ass on the wall with your 2 left feet. It's real easy, just follow the beat. Don't let that